So today we have 4 questions in total. So let's start with the first question. Question number 1. At which point you think it's advantageous to do distress scan instead of taking impression?
So, when should you transition from taking impressions to taking digital scans? As I mentioned, I would say immediately. It's like they say the best time to take action is yesterday. And I think for anyone out there taking impressions still for especially basic cases like crowns, bridges, single tooth implants, I think without a doubt, if I was you, I would buy a scanner tomorrow, do some research, reach out to colleagues. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help and guide you off the Medit webinar. It doesn't have to be on the Medit webinar. And yeah, I think it's just ASAP. The faster you get into it, the faster you invest, the more likely you're going to be confident with this technology, and the quicker you will basically stop taking impressions.
Okay, I still can't forget that you put the illustration of like running, trying to catch the distress scan with impression body. So
yeah, and it's really, if you're not adopting digital technology, I strongly believe you're falling behind. Sadly, I don't want to say that. I don't mean to be rude, but this is reality with how fast the industry is moving.
okay, so question number 2. How do you solve the issue when margin line is unclear and you cannot call a patient back to the clinic?
Right. So if the margin line is unclear and you've told the patient leave, how do you solve this issue? Well, there's no really easy solution, to be honest. I would suggest, like in our job, prevention is better than cure. Before you let the patient leave, you should always check your scans. Always. And you don't have to meticulously check everything. If it's a crown prep, just check your crown prep and the contact areas. So my best advice will be to make sure you control bleeding, retract properly, scan properly before the patient leaves, so you don't have the stress. But let's say it's a hard day, you ran out of time. We all have those days, including me. So if the patient has left and you don't want to bring them back, it might be a bit of a stressful patient. How do you control where the margin line is clear? Well, you can't really. That's reality. You can play around with the mesh or the scan on Medit design and try remove the gingiva, but you will notice that it's quite difficult. And the reality is your lab will basically try do the same thing. If they can't see the margin line, they will just edit the mesh to where they assume the margin line is. So hopefully you have some nice clinical photos of your prep, and then you can estimate where the margin line is. But the reality is, if it's a big error, it is hard to do post-op. If it is a small error, like a little bit of retraction cord, your lab should be able to handle that.
I was just curious that, do you have your clinician, dental lab technician in your clinic?
Yeah, we have a lab. We never started like that. I used to just be myself doing all the lab work after hours. And now we have a full digital lab. It's actually IDD lab. And we have 5 full-time technicians now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, question number 3. How do you adjust prosthetic fit without checking it on the working model?
So, again, one of those things where if you want to check prosthetic fit, the reality is the best way. And if you ask any lab how they're doing it, is a working model. So you have your scans, hopefully. So you should be able to print a working model. That's the beauty about scanning, again, is that you always have that data. Unlike an impression where you might throw away the impression and then it's gone. With scans, you always have that data. So if you're not using a model, really the only other way is using something like crown fit, but even that needs some model and some scans of the model, or at least the preparation itself. The reality is, if you want to check the fit, you either check it intraorally or you print a model and you check it on the model. That is the 2 best ways. And in particular, if you're trying to check fit, like I do all my crowns modelless, I don't print a model for all my crowns. I will be checking it intraorally. So I would mill the crown, check it. By experience, you will just become very proficient in designing crowns that don't need adjustment. But if you do need a bit of adjustment, I just fit it in the mouth, check it, and adjust chairside.
That means you prepped very well and you didn't assume any margin.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, I think the fundamental thing of all digital dentistry is preparation. It's a skill that we're taught in dental school. And even though we're doing things digitally, digital doesn't mean magic. And if you prepare well, your teeth and your preparation is of a high standard, the rest of the process is very easy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last one. Question number 4. How do you restore a gold crown or PFG in your clinic? What is the workflow?
Oh, I haven't had to do a gold crown in a very, very long time because I mainly do ceramic like Emax or zirconia. But the workflow would be exactly the same. Scan, temporize, send it to the lab. I know there's a lot of digital labs out there that still do gold. And if they don't do gold, they can make a wax up digitally and they can print that wax up out of a resin that can be basically casted or burnt out into a gold crown. So treat it exactly the same as all your other crowns. If you're doing it in-house, you won't be doing gold in-house because very few clinics have the equipment needed to make cast gold crowns. But if you're sending it to a lab, you just treat it as normal. No difference. Just make sure on the lab form, you select gold and the lab will be able to handle everything else.
Okay, that's all about it for today. You'll be able to watch this webinar on our YouTube channel and Medit Academy once it's completed. Thank you for being here, Doctor.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks again for having me, and I'll see you guys in the next webinar.
Bye.